Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Today's card is a whimsical take on a new die by Spellbinders from Susan's Garden Favorites collection, Lilac. So really, what's a birthday celebration if there isn't a little bit of glitz and glam? This card definitely has it covered for that someone special. This die set comes with the pretty flowers, 2 sizes of leaves, and then the other 2 dies actually form the foundation for the lilac. There will be multiple cuts for some of the elements, and the number needed is indicated right on the die. Typically, when I build a paper flower, I do it independent of the card and put it on later, but that is not possible for the lilac, so I'm first of all going to prepare my background. Using Spellbinders Mosaic Bracket Card Builder, I've die cut some pale gold glitter paper and then stacked it slightly offset on a foam die cut. I'm going to call this a garden trellis, and it is being adhered to pale pink cardstock that is A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. The curved edge of the die cut will overhang the card so that it can be trimmed off. To create a border along the trellis, I've cut 3 strips of paper about 1/8 of an inch wide, one out of the gold glitter, another out of the pink cardstock, and then the third out of ivory cardstock, and adhere it right along the edge. The panel is flipped over and I trim off any pieces that are overhanging. Now to build those beautiful lilacs. I have 2 flowers. One is going to be in pink and gold and the other in ivory and gold. The pieces that I'm showing you are actually the foundation pieces for the lilac. Susan, the designer, refers to them as lifts. For each of my flowers, I'm going to cut this die twice out of cardstock and once out of the glitter paper. I'm going to be doing my shaping on a molding mat. These are the foundation pieces. 2 small ones are required and then 1 large. I'm working with McGill's Paper Blossoms toolkit. With the largest ball tool, I just go around the perimeter of each of these pieces, making small circular motions. They will start to curl up, forming some dimension. Glue is applied right around the edge of one of the small pieces, and then it's going to be adhered down. This will form support for the larger one to sit over top of. It's going to take a little bit longer for this to adhere because I'm working on glitter paper. This first smaller lift has been positioned so that it will be at the base of the larger one. So I do the very same thing again. I put a good amount of glue around the perimeter and then position it and hold it in place for just a little while. The final lift will sit on the top third of the larger one. Now we can start working with the little blooms that are going to turn this into a lilac. For the first lilac, I'm going to be working with die cuts from pink cardstock and gold glitter paper. I'm going to work with a handful of the blooms at a time, spraying them with water, and then taking my tweezers and putting it down the center of each petal and squeezing it up. When these little flowers are sprayed with water, it makes the cardstock more pliable for shaping. As they dry, the petals will hold their new structure very well. Of course, I'm not able to do this first step in the shaping for the glitter paper flowers, which cuts down my work by 1/3. Yes, I got that right. The die with the blooms was cut 2 times out of the cardstock and 1 time out of the glitter paper. The second and final step in shaping these flowers is placing them on the molding mat and depressing the centers with a medium-sized ball tool. This will be the one and only step for the flowers out of the glitter paper. So this is the fun part when you start seeing the flower take shape. The flower placement will start at the base of the lilac. Because 2/3 of the flowers are pink, I position 2 of those flowers followed by a gold one, more or less. The lifts that were put in place as the foundation for this lilac really make it dimensional and give it that conical look that we associate with lilacs. I tend to work in small sections. I'll bring the blooms up the side and then fill in the area beside it. For the blooms that are on the sides, they are adhered off of the lift right next to it on the background. This creates a nice smooth transition between the two. As I position the blooms, I tuck them in very closely to one another. The craft pick is a good tool for this job. I'm getting near the end, so I position my end point with that little pink bloom and then work up towards it. When working with those blooms out of the gold glitter paper, I do make a point of kind of squishing them together because they didn't have the initial shaping that the pink ones do. One more bloom to go, and I have to do just a little bit of rearranging to get it in. Back to the molding mat, and I'm just going to use a medium-sized ball tool and go around the perimeter of the wrong side of the leaf in circular motions. The leaf is right side up, and I'm going to depress the base of the leaf so that there's a flat area for the adhesive. The tip of the leaf is squeezed between my 2 fingers, and then I just simply depress it with the ball tool. Easy, and this leaf is ready to go on the panel. Once again, I use the ball tool around the perimeter of the leaf in circular motions. Right side up, I depress the base of the leaf. The tip of the leaf is squeezed together and depressed. The leaves are arranged at the base of the flower. When I'm happy with the arrangement, then I put the glue on and adhere them. The second leaf, which is the larger of the two, is adhered slightly overlapping the first one. I have the lifts prepared for the second bloom and position it near the base of the card. I first adhere the small lift that is going to support the larger one. This small one is in position so that the base of the larger one will be over top of it. The second smaller lift sits on top of the upper portion of the large lift. Because this lilac was sitting so close to the bottom of the card, I decided to adhere the leaves on first and then proceeded to adhere all my blooms of ivory and gold. By the way, if you're interested in any of the products that I'm using, links can be found in the description of this YouTube video or on my blog at bonniecarolee.com. When both lilacs were complete, I ended up die cutting just a few more of the pink and ivory blooms. These were used to fill out the base just a little bit more on each of the lilacs, and I kept a handful to highlight the sentiment. My die cut sentiment for this card is from Spellbinders Layered Mix and Match Sentiments. It has been die cut from the gold glitter paper, ivory cardstock, and foam. The foam die cut has been left in its backing with only the centers of the letters removed. The foam die cut will have an impression, making it very easy to stack the glitter one. Any final adjustments can be made with the craft pick in the openings of the letters. Before the sentiment is removed from the backing, I set it aside for about 10 minutes so that it can dry. I don't want to have gone to the little bit of extra work it took to nicely stack this sentiment to have it slip out of alignment by removing the backing too soon. So in the meantime, I'm going to put some Tombow glue on the ivory die cut sentiment. After about 10 minutes, the glue is completely set and I can remove the sentiment from its backing. The Tombow glue on the ivory sentiment is dry and it is tacky, leaving it repositionable. perfect for stacking it on top of the glitter one slightly offset. There's already lots of glitter going on in this card. I definitely wanted to continue the theme of glitz and glam, but I wanted it to be much more subtle. And the sentiment looks so pretty with just that little bit of edging of the gold glitter paper. I'm putting this large sentiment down the side of my card, and so I was really concerned that I would get it on straight, so I decided to go ahead and use the Tombow glue again. I gave the sentiments a few minutes for that glue to dry until it was tacky. I definitely chose the right glue. To get the sentiment both centered and straight, I did need to reposition it several times. A few blooms were adhered to either end of the sentiment to highlight it. The centers of all of the flowers were finished off with caramel nouveau crystal drops. I think because a lot of these blooms are sitting at a bit of an angle, the nouveau drops actually dimpled a bit, so I did reapply them, but I let them dry first for several hours before doing that. And that completes this card featuring Spellbinders Lilac from Susan's Garden Favorites collection. This is not your typical garden variety, but neither is the person who's getting this card. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I appreciate your visit.